Welcome everyone to my video for our drawing techniques. Today we are going to be practicing a few different techniques to apply to our art projects. So to get set up, I have a piece of paper in your art kit. I gave you some practice paper. You want to get one of those out. It's just a plain piece of paper. Otherwise, if you have already used that, you can use any paper that you might have, loose leaf paper or anything at home, even if it's not plain paper, anything that you can use to practice your drawing techniques on. I have my colored pencils. A sharpener would be really helpful, and then a pencil with an eraser. I also have a ruler handy because we're about to divide up our paper. If you don't have a ruler, you want to find something with a straight edge. So I have this book that I could use to create a straight line with, or anything that you can find at home that you could use as a straight edge if you don't have a ruler. We have 8 different drawing techniques that we're going to practice. So I'm going to be splitting my paper up into 8 spaces, but as you can see, I've already labeled it. So I want you to write drawing techniques and your first and last name. So you can pause the video at this time to just write that near the top. I drew a line underneath it. You don't have to, but I'm about to draw more lines, so I thought that would help. Go ahead and write drawing techniques and your first and last name. When we're done with that, we want to split our page into 8 different spaces. Now, you could just draw 8 boxes, but I figured to give myself the most room, I would try and at least create a more organized workspace. So I'm going to draw a straight line down the center of my paper, or as close to the middle as I can. And if it's crooked, that's okay. We're not really worried about that right now. It's not like this is our summative work. And I'm going to do another line going horizontal across the page. Then I'm going to go ahead and I need one more horizontal line towards the top and one more horizontal line towards the bottom. So my spaces aren't perfectly even. That's okay. I just want 8 spaces to work in. This is something as an artist, like we can quickly divide like our sketchbook paper up into little spaces to do sketches, to try techniques, or anything we might need to practice, so that we're not doing like one small drawing in the middle of our paper and moving on, and kind of use a lot of our workspace. So our drawing techniques that we're going to be practicing today are listed on our course with our course information. So you can pull up those examples as you're practicing or follow along with the video. Our first technique is hatching. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down here. Hatching, hatching. This technique that I can see while I'm looking at our drawing techniques image, I see a bunch of lines. So I'm going to first start out with one color today. Let's see, maybe I'll start with orange. So hatching is really lines that go in the same direction, right? They could be going straight up and down. They could be going diagonally. They can be really close together or further apart. Let's see, I'm going to mix in another color now. I can use more than one color or technique together. So hatching, maybe if I have these spaced out lines, we have a second color with it. If I go over my lines that are really close together, I'm starting to layer my hatch marks. Maybe I throw in a third color and layer my hatch marks. Now my hatch marks are really starting to blend together, and that's okay. Depending on how I draw my lines, they might be very visible, or I might start to lose the idea of the hatch marks as I continue to layer. It all depends on the look that I'm going for. So before we move on to our next step, I want to talk about how we can use these in our artwork. So if I'm thinking about these hatch marks, I want to think about, why might I use this in a drawing? One way I might use it, if I'm thinking about, I'm going to draw someone that's wearing a sweatshirt. Maybe that sweatshirt, instead of coloring it in just red, maybe I use hatch marks to give it more of a textured look. So instead of filling in a space plain red, I could fill it with hatching to give it a more unique look or design. Another thing we can do is use our drawing techniques to make something look more realistic or add more interest to it. So I'm going to draw a circle over here, and I figured instead of freehanding it, I am going to either use a circle tracer. If I don't have a circle tracer at home, I'm going to find something that's circular I could trace. I looked in my kitchen. I have some onion powder, and the cap in the bottom is a circle. I could trace this. Another thing that is very handy to me right now is hand sanitizer. So I could flip this over and trace the cap. So it's something we're going to get creative working from home. Please try this along with me if you can find something to trace or freehand a circle. And what my goal is going to be is to use hatching to fill this space, and we can start to learn how to use this to advance our work. So let's see, I'm going to use a different color to give us a different example. I'm going to start with a dark blue, and my hatch marks are now going to curve with my circular shape. I went outside the circle there a little bit, and that's okay. So I'm going to create these hatch marks that slowly start to get further away from each other as they move towards the top of the circle. And I'm starting to make them lighter as they move towards the top of the circle. I had to turn my paper, I'm right-handed, so as I keep going and I add more lines, it gives me more control to turn my paper when I need to, so that I'm not always trying to work like this. I can turn my paper to help me guide my pencil. And all of my lines are still going the same direction like we practice over here. Now they're just curving. And what that's doing is allowing this sphere to look more 3D, right? It started as a flat circle, and now it's starting to look more three-dimensional. I could do a little bit more shading, spend a little bit more time here. I can mix in more colors. Maybe just using another blue, or maybe there's going to be a lot of different colors. That would be up to you. I went outside the lines a little bit. I'm going to fix my edges. All right, so that's a way we can take this very simple idea of hatching and start to make something look more 3D or realistic. You can pause this video at any time to try these techniques yourself. At this time, you could pause to try and make sure you're practicing all the things I went over with hatching. Now I'm going to go into our next space and try cross hatching. So this is a version of hatching, so I'm going to go ahead and write that in this space. It's C-R-O-S-S-A-T or H-A-T-C-H-I-N-G. So cross hatching. If we think about what we just did with hatching, I think we can figure out what cross hatching might be. Let's see, I'm going to pick some colors to work with here. I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with blue. So if I'm thinking about hatching, right, I have my lines that follow the same direction. Cross hatching would be simply going the other direction then. Okay, I could do that further apart or really close together. My pencil's getting a little bit more dull, so I can't see my lines as much, but even though this is looking like just a dark space, there's still a little bit more texture to it than if I were to just simply scribble in the color blue. So cross hatching again can make things look a little bit more interesting. I could add in more colors, and then that all depends on what it is I'm trying to draw. I could do really close cross hatching over the top with another color. And again, I want to think about what could I use this for in a drawing. I could use that same example of a sweatshirt. Maybe that sweatshirt has more of a texture to it. This also kind of reminds me of a chain link fence. If I were to use black and I were drawing a fence in a drawing, oops, I think I grabbed a dark purple. That's okay. That starts to remind me of that fence texture. So we can think about how we can make our drawings more interesting by using a drawing technique. At this time, if you'd like to trace another circle and try that with cross hatching. Okay, I'm going to do a smaller circle. I ran out of space. You could also do your circles on the back, but I do want you to practice filling in some sort of shape with these drawing techniques so it makes a little bit more sense how these can be applied. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with these same colors that I was using before. I do need to sharpen my pencil so that I can actually see my hatch marks a little bit better. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing I did before, is just start with these curved lines, right? I wanna follow the curve of the circle. I'm gonna start to make mine a little bit lighter towards the top. That way it can look like there's light hitting it. If yours are all the same dark color, light color, that's okay too. This is just practice. But if you're looking to advance your work, that's something that you could practice, is getting lighter as you go up. And then I need to fix my edges there. Since I'm going a little bit faster, I'm going outside the lines just a little bit. That's all right because I'm practicing. And maybe I could add that second color, right? This is very similar to what we just did with our hatching. Now to make it cross hatching, I also need to go the other way. So what I'm gonna do is reach towards that light space. So my pencil's reaching up, but I want it to get lighter as it goes towards the top, if that's what you're trying. If you're doing all the same color lines or all the same value, if they're all dark or if they're all light, that's okay. All right, so now I'm going the other direction too. So that's what makes this different from what we just tried before. All right, now we're gonna move on to our next drawing technique, which is stippling, S-T-I-P-P-L-I-N-G. All right, so if you've done this before, what we're gonna be doing is really like moving our pencil up and down on the paper. So if we can't see that very well, if my hand's the paper, we're gonna be kind of poking our paper with the pencil. So depending on what colors I choose, might help make this look like something I might use in my drawing. So stippling, you're gonna hear that lovely noise, can be done really close together. I'm going to use multiple colors to make it a little bit more interesting. Or it could be done really far apart. So if we were planning on using this for something, like a drawing, and we didn't want the background to just be light, like the paper, we could always add maybe some color down first, and then stipple over the top, either with the same color or a different color. So if I'm doing a drawing of a street, for example, this could be something that I use for grass way far away. I'm not going to be able to see the individual blades of grass, so I might make it look like dots. This reminds me of sand or dirt. You could use this for the stars in the sky. So these could be used for a lot of different textures in your drawing. So if we were to go ahead and, so I'm going to do a smaller circle again, draw a circle on our paper and try stippling. If I want this to look like it is getting darker towards the side again and the light is shining up here, I'm going to create a lot of dots towards the bottom of the circle, or the area that I'm considering the bottom, like this one goes light to dark. I'm going to do the same thing. And then as I move up towards the top, it's going to get lighter and lighter. So this would take some time. Right, you're going to keep stippling. You like rock out to the sound that you're making with your pencil on the paper. Kind of sounds like a woodpecker. And maybe I'll grab another color to start mixing in, and I'm gonna just keep creating a lot of stipples towards the bottom to make this side look darker than the side towards the top. So I'm gonna keep going for now, but I want you to keep working that space so that it goes from dark to light. You can pause this video at any time to finish a step before moving on. Our next area is going to be random strokes. So R-A-N-D-O-M Trokes. Now this is where you probably want to have an idea already and think about what you're going to use these random strokes for. So one thing I always immediately think of when I create like random strokes on paper is blades of grass. Right, so I could create these random strokes that are going in different directions to make my grass look more realistic. Then I could take another color to make that look even more realistic, right? When we walk outside, usually every single blade of grass isn't the same color. This is where if you were doing grass that goes back in space, they might be more like stipples in the background. I could create a pattern. Maybe there's 3 that way, 3 that way. So random strokes going around to create some sort of pattern or design. Okay, another one could be maybe like for a feather texture, for example. I might need these random strokes. And I'm just gonna go right over my box there because I want to get my idea out on paper. And then add in another color here. I kind of have a peacock feather in mind, so I'm picturing those types of colors and that type of feather. So you can practice whatever you'd like, just using random marks on the paper. Fill up that box with different designs and colors. Take some time to complete that step and pause the video if you need to. Up here, we're going to start color mixing. So color mixing is our next step. And what we're gonna try in this space is layering our colors on top of each other. So we're gonna pick 2 colors to try this with. I'm going to pick, see, I have like a little bit darker blue and a really bright green. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with 1 color and just lay down kind of like a light layer. Starting to press a little bit harder as I add a little bit more. So I'm using the side of my pencil, right? If I push down like this, it's gonna be a lot darker. So what I wanna practice doing is just using the side of my pencil for this step. I'm gonna switch over to my second color, do the same thing with the side of the pencil, add a couple of layers, and then switch back. Now you'd really choose as the artist like how many times you're gonna go back and forth. But as I get some more layers going now, I can start to actually press a little bit harder and they're really blending together now. I add a little bit more of this color here so that my colors truly start to really mix together. When we do layer after layer, they really start to blend and become a new color. If I press too hard right away, and then I try mixing a lighter color with that, I can see the green a little bit, but it's not mixing as well as it did when I layered them lightly. So this is one technique where you can truly get 2 colors to blend together better than if we press too hard right away. So I want you to try that, maybe even with 2 colors, that'd be great, as long as you try that layering. Now we're gonna move on to blending. So in this next box, I'm going to write blending, B-L-E-N-D-I-N-G. And what we're going to try for blending in this space is going from one color into another. That's the technique we're going to try. That's not the only type of blending we can do as artists, but that's what I want us to practice now. So again, I'm going to choose 2 colors. I'm choosing these 2 colors because I might get kind of a sunset look. So that's what I want to practice right now. So what I'm going to do to blend with my first color is I'm going to start towards the top of my box. And again, I'm using the side of my pencil instead of the top, right, the side of it. And I'm just going to create kind of a dark orange. I'm pressing harder. And then as I go down, I'm going to press lighter and lighter so the color fades from dark orange to light orange. When I'm creating this blended colored area, I want to try and make it smooth. So I want it to transition from dark to light really well. So I might need to go over some spaces. And then I'm ready for my next color. I'm actually going to turn my paper upside down. I'm going to start at the bottom of this blending area and work back towards that dark orange. So that's why turning my paper helps. I'm going to use the side of my yellow. So not pressing straight down, using the side. I'm pressing hard at first, and it's going to start to get lighter and lighter. So I'm not pressing hard anymore, pressing light as I move towards that dark orange. Now, if you're noticing that there's some really harsh lines in between your colors, you're just going to go back and forth, and I'm just pressing very light right now, just to get them to kind of blend smoothly together. All right, so if it didn't work out very well the first time, pick 2 other colors and maybe try it again. Next, we're going to move to value, so V-A-L-U-E. I'm going to pick 2 colors. Let's see. I'm going to pick, so I'm going to do red and yellow. Again, this might give me a cool sunset look, so I want to try it. We're going to take the same thing we did for blending over to value, at least for the first step. So I'm going to start with red, and I'm pressing hard at first, and it's going to get lighter towards the bottom. So pressing hard and then getting lighter. Actually, I think I'm going to add in a 3rd color. So if you just want to do 2, that's fine. But I'm going to do a 3rd color because I think that'll make this more interesting. So when I think about value, I want my value to blend smoothly from dark to light. So when I'm up here, I'm pressing hard. And when I'm down here, I'm pressing really light. That takes a lot of practice as an artist. So if it's something you're struggling with, all we need to do is practice, practice, practice. So it should go smoothly from dark to light. If I get an area that has like a harsh line where I can see that it stops, this is where I want to spend more time. So I'm going to turn my paper a little bit and just start to apply a little bit of pressure, move my pencil back and forth until this area blends in a little bit more. This is one way to show value with 1 color. If I want to show value, so something that goes dark to light with more than 1 color, I'm going to start my 2nd color so my dark red ends about here. I'm going to start my orange here and start to kind of mix it back and forth between the dark red and light red, and then bring it all the way down just very light. So really it's only darker up here, not all the way to the top, but darker here, and then it gets really light. I can't really see my orange a whole lot here, and that's okay. We don't always have to see colors very brightly to have it help mix in with an area. So my orange is here, right? I'm just pressing very light just to make sure this is really blended well. Again, I can't see it very much here, and that's okay. And then I'm gonna take my yellow and go back and forth in the space that's lower down and press pretty hard towards the bottom, and then press light as I go up. So it's helping to kind of blend all these colors together. All right, so it takes a lot of practice to blend them smoothly. If we need to try again, please do. Maybe try different colors. Again, this kind of reminds me of a sunset. You could also use this trick to show water. So maybe from dark blue to medium blue to light blue. That could be something you try next. All right, go ahead and practice there. We're gonna move on, when you're ready, to our last drawing technique. We're almost there. Hopefully you've been enjoying using a lot of different colors so far. Our last box is burnishing. So that's B-U-R-N-I-S-H-I-N-G, burnishing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create some colored space. So you could maybe, let's see, I'm just gonna start with 2 colors. I'm gonna start with 2 colors, and I wanna practice more value. So Maybe on this side I can go from dark to light, from dark to light, right? And then I'm going to start with my second color, the opposite direction, dark to light. Now to burnish this space, I need a white colored pencil. What this white color pencil is going to do is help mix things together a little bit. If you have Prismacolor pencils at home, so Prismacolor comes with a pencil that is called a colorless blender, and it's just wax in the pencil tip, and that can do the same step. But if you don't have that colorless blender, you could do the same type of thing with a white colored pencil. So I'm just going to do one side here to see if I can see the difference when I burnish. So I'm just going to drag this white color pencil across, and what I'm noticing is it kind of helps blend my colors together, and it makes them really bright and vibrant. I love that about burnishing. It can really make your colors pop. But if I don't do this blending correctly from the beginning, and I just scribble on a color and say, that's all right, I'll fix it when I burnish over the top and it'll look smooth. When I do that, I can really still see the scribble mark. Okay, so if you want this burnishing to help blend your colors, you need to start with strong value blending and color mixing from the start. Not having the white of the paper show through, your colors blend really well all by themselves, and this over the top can just help with that. I can do any sort of drawing technique and burnish over the top. So if I wanted to crosshatch and then burnish, that might create kind of a cool look, right? It's kind of like blended and fuzzy looking. I think that looks pretty cool. So you could take this burnishing technique over any technique and it can work, and it'll make things look a little bit different and interesting in their own way. So I want you to try a few things there. As we finish our drawing techniques, I want you to know that these are not the only drawing techniques out there. They're just some of them. So if you have other techniques that you want to bring into a project, that's totally fine. These are just some that we can all kind of work together on. We want to feel solid in this area, and we can always add more as artists. I hope you enjoyed coloring a little bit today and trying these drawing techniques. As we continue to grow as artists, hopefully we will get better and better.